Hello silver friends, this is Joli from QuickSilverHair, and today I'm answering all of your burning questions about heat protectant. Over the years, I've gotten a lot of questions, so I thought I would compile them into this video and blog. I even asked on my QuickSilverHair Facebook page if you had any questions that you needed for me to answer. It was interesting. There were some questions there that I had not thought about, so those are in this video and the blog as well. If you want to check out the blog, it will be linked in the description box below, and of course, it will contain more details and my sources and so forth for answering your questions. So if you're interested in learning about how to use heat protectant properly to protect your hair from yellowing, it's all in this video. Let's get started. First up, how do I select a heat protectant? This all depends on what kind of heat you're using and how you're styling your hair. So when you're using direct heat appliances like flat irons, curling irons, hot brushes, and even blowouts, when you're using a round brush that has a metal core, that metal core heats up and that creates direct heat. So if you're using an appliance like that, where it's directly touching your hair, you definitely want a blowout cream or a heat protectant that is rated up to a certain temperature. And all of these products that claim heat protection, if they aren't rated, they probably weren't tested to a certain temperature. Now, if you see that it's up to 450 degrees and you don't ever see anything more than that, there's a reason for that. And that is because hair will catch on fire after 450 degrees. So we don't need to rate products over 450 degrees because you shouldn't be heating your hair up past 450 degrees. So this leads me to the next question, which is, do you need a heat protectant if you're using a diffuser only? If you're only drying your hair with a diffuser, no, you do not need a heat protectant because the diffuser is acting as a mechanical heat protectant by diffusing the heat away and spreading it out, dispersing it so that it is not so centralized out of the end of the hair dryer. This is something that I would caution with because if you have an older dryer or a dryer that gets really hot, or you have a diffuser that gets really hot, it might be time for a new dryer. If you are a curly girl and you're using a curl cream, a leave-in, and a gel, you likely don't need heat protection from all of that being a barrier to the heat as well. Gel itself usually contains polymers, and polymers can act as a heat protectant because they create a thin film over the hair, and that film allows heat to be dispersed and not hit the hair and burn it. That all said, if you really want to play it safe and be on the safe side, I would suggest that your curl creams or your leave-ins have a little bit of heat protection in it, and then you will, be on the safe side. If you are only blow drying your hair and only using your blow dryer on medium to low heat, even with your diffuser or no diffuser, you likely don't need a heat protectant at all because heat protectants are rated up to 450 degrees and really most beneficial for temperatures over 300 degrees, and a hairdryer does not get that hot. The next question is, what is the difference between heat protection and UV protection? Heat protectant products are designed with ingredients that help create a barrier against heat and prevent heat damage. UV protection is products with ingredients in it that have UV filters to protect your hair from UV radiation. I can see the point of confusion here because while the sun is hot, a heat protectant is not going to protect your hair from UV damage. While some products are standalone, they are either a heat protectant or a UV protectant. There are products out there that do have both UV and heat protection. I have the Scene products sitting right here. The leave-in has UV and heat, and both of the creams, the blowout and the curly cream, have UV and heat protection. In my book, it seems like a real simple solution to just use a product like that so that you have both of those benefits from one product. The next question, I thought this was a really good question. Does everyone with gray hair need to use a heat protectant? No, some people find that when they use a heat protectant, it actually causes their hair to yellow. And when they stop using the heat protectants, they don't have any more issues with it. My theory on this is maybe formulation, depending on what you're picking your formulas. and also the hair type. If you have coarser hair or thicker hair, you likely don't need heat protection as it is because your hair is already a little bit stronger and a little bit more heat resilient. If you notice your hair is yellowing and you've been using a heat protectant, you may try to stop using the heat protectant and see what happens. This is unfortunately experimental, and I would be very careful, and I would caution you to make sure that your tools are below 365 degrees. Another really good question is, does silver hair require a different hair protectant than darker hair colors? Yes and no. You can pretty much pick any heat protectant for silver hair. The words of caution here would be making sure that it is a white or clear formula, and check those ingredients because some of these products are designed with a little tint in them to help with color treated hair and to enhance that color. So some of them I have found had added dyes in them like yellow, red, orange, and even blue dyes. You want to check the bottom of the list and there'll be a little color and a number after that color, and that will tell you that there is added dyes to the product. So I would avoid products with added dyes, and I would avoid products that have heavy color oils in them, say argan oil or sunflower oil, any oil like that where it is actually already altering the color of the product. That would indicate to me that you could cook that product onto your hair and it would discolor your silvers. Also, if the company claims that the product is color safe, that is something I would watch out for because that doesn't necessarily mean that it is gray safe. So you would want to look at the product and make sure it's not a funky color, a dark color, or something you would worry about with those added dyes. So after you have selected your product, you need to make sure that you properly prepare your hair for using a heat protectant and for using heat. So step one, of course, is shampoo your hair on wash day. When you remove buildup, you prevent the buildup from burning and yellowing, and you will help ensure your product absorbs into your hair. If you are using a co-wash, I would recommend that you shampoo your hair at least once a week, or at least right before you're going to heat style, so that you do not burn any product onto your hair. Condition your hair. Unconditioned hair is more prone to heat damage. Conditioner contains ingredients that will help keep moisture in the hair during the styling process and help protect your hair from heat. Let your tea towel or microfiber towel help you with the drying process. Wrap or plop your hair instead of rough drying it with a towel. When rough drying your hair, you cause mechanical damage and raise the cuticle. This will also lead to yellowing. Moving on to how do you properly apply your heat protectant for complete coverage. Please remember that complete coverage is going to be very difficult to achieve because the surface area of your hair is very large. So it's very difficult to apply a product from the roots of your hair to the tips of your hair. So this is where it gets important to make sure you're taking these steps to ensure you're getting the best heat protection you can. Number one, apply your heat protectant to damp hair, not soaking wet hair. This will help you get the right concentration of product that isn't watered down with soaking wet hair. The density of your hair will determine the number of sections you need. I always say use small sections for all hair types. Take this time, it will pay off. If you have fine and thin hair, you only need a few sections and minimal product. If you have very thick hair, you need more smaller sections and likely more product. And you want to comb that product through with your comb or your fingers and rake it through from root to tips to ensure an even coating of product. And you want to do that per section, not just, apply the product in the section and then comb through all your hair at once. Comb through each section. Here are some hair tips for heat styling. If you use a heat protecting cream and serum, I would use the cream first and the serum just before using a flat iron or curling iron, especially if you blow dry your hair before. Make sure to focus your product in the areas like your face framing pieces, ends, frizzy spots, etc. that are stubborn to style and where you tend to hit them multiple times with your heat tool. This is often where I see people have the most heat damage, is where they repeatedly go back to the same spot and hit it with the tool over and over again. Which brings me to the next point, which is once your hair is in the shape you want, don't keep going over it with heat repeatedly. This is when the worst damage is done. So use a finishing spray to hold your style, and hopefully your touch-ups will be minimal. When do I apply heat protection? Before you touch your hair with a heat tool like a flat iron, curling iron, or hot brush, you want to make sure you're applying your heat protection. Our next question is, how long do you wait between application and heat styling? You should make sure that your hair is dry for flat irons, curling irons, and hot brushes, unless it's one of those tools that is more for damp styling. Some of the brushes work better if your hair is slightly damp. If your hair is wet and you use a flat iron or a curling iron, it can cause a phenomenon called bubble fractures. And this is when the water molecules that are inside of your hair get super hot and explode, and they cause damage to the cuticle. So do not use your flat iron or curling iron on wet hair. Okay, so the next one is a group of questions that is best answered in one answer, but basically the questions were, do you only need to apply it on wash day? Do you apply it every time you use heat? What do I use before I use heat on a non-wash day? What do I use for heat styling on day 2 hair? So these all have pretty much the same answer, and that is that yes, you do need to apply your heat protectant every time you're going to use heat. Because depending on how long it's been since you heat styled your hair, maybe it's the next day, maybe it's 3 days later, all of the protection that you had in place has worn off. You've rubbed it off on your clothes, your pillowcase, and so forth. And it's likely evaporated. So some of these products have water in them and other ingredients that will evaporate over time. So you want to make sure you're using a heat rated product. I would suggest that if you are someone who's having to touch up your hair a couple of days later or whenever after you've done your initial heat styling, that you find a good heat serum that is lightweight. This way you're not adding a lot of product, and you can actually target apply to the areas that you're going to touch up, and you don't have to apply it to all of your hair if you're not going to reheat style your entire head. So I would suggest a product like Scene's Magic Serum. It's rated up to 450 degrees, or Loma's Nourishing Oil Treatment, also rated up to 450 degrees. They're both lightweight, and they would both be, perfect for that. You can pick any serum you like as long as it's rated for use with heat. I'll make a special note again here that if you are applying too many products and you are using high heat, you have to remember that you could be burning those products onto your hair, and even though you've protected your actual hair strand, you could end up with the product discoloring and looking off on your hair. This is where my clay product actually is very beneficial. I have helped several people remove product buildup that's burnt onto their hair, and it's very effective at that. So if you want to check that out, you can. This is a really great question. Can I use my hot tool on the hottest setting because I have applied heat protection? No, you want to use that heat rated product. However, you want to make sure that this is a combined effort to protect your hair. So you want to drop your tool down to below 365 degrees. Protecting your silvers requires both heat protection and lower temperatures on your tools. If you want to see what heat does to hair even with heat protection on it, I did a video and a blog post on a heat protection experiment. I will link that in the description box below if you want to check that out. There are before and after photos, and it gives you a really clear indicator of what it means to properly use the heat protectant and use a lower temperature. And finally, are there fragrance-free heat protectants? Yes, all 3 of Scene's heat protectants that I have here. I don't have the curly cream, it does have heat protection in it, but all 4 of their products come in fragrance-free, and they all provide heat protection. You can use my discount code, which will also be linked in the description box below. This video isn't sponsored, I just happen to have all of the Scene products, and they're perfect for that. So as you can see, by following these simple techniques and knowing the answers to these questions, you can prevent your hair from yellowing with heat. Remember, the key is in the application process and sectioning your hair. Protecting your gray hair does not have to be complicated, and I know a lot of people are afraid to use heat, so hopefully this has helped you out. So that's it for this video. I hope you did find it helpful. And if you are looking for anything that I discussed in this video, products or blog posts, etc., they will be linked in the description box below. Also in the description box is my email list. If you want to sign up for my emails, that's the best way to stay in contact with me. And it gets you a couple of freebies and enrolls you in my yearly giveaway, which is done on December 1st. It's coming up. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below. I love the conversations on my videos. That is my favorite part of doing this, is talking to you. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And while you're down there, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so now, because I would love to see you next time. Until then, shine on.